Today on First Cup, we're talking about what's different in my coffee and why. We're talking about the presents we're going to have at Rhode Island Comic Con this weekend. We're talking about yesterday's episode of Martial Arts Radio. We're talking about a ton of stuff. So stick around. We roll in 15. Banner go. All right. I think that works. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Today is Tuesday. It's November 2nd, 2021. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first cup of coffee. Well, I hope you had a good Monday. I had a pretty good Monday. Actually, I had a really good Monday. Bounced all over the place. Did work, drove around, did a ton of stuff. It was all good stuff. Good morning, Frank. Frank says we were super busy at the store this weekend. I believe that. People are starting to get ready for Thanksgiving already. It's crazy. Good morning, Jenny. Jenny and I had a call yesterday. One of the many things that went well yesterday. Well, good morning, Shane. One of the, if you've been watching the show for a while, you probably have starting to get it. Well, I doubt many of you remember, but I have a fairly regular schedule. There are periods of time where I do certain things and then periods of time that are more open. Monday until about noon is pretty standard. I deal with clients. Sometimes I'll have an early meeting, but usually it's just client work, client work, client work. You know, not much whistlekick going on in there. But once noon rolls around, good morning, Tommy. Jenny says, yes, it was a great call. Good things coming. Capital letters very soon with some exclamation points. That is quite true. We have a great project that we're working on. I'm super pumped. So the afternoon rolls around and then it's different stuff, you know, and quite often it's whistlekick work. Could be other things. Well, yesterday, the next thing I had to do was roll up and go to the orthodontist because, yeah, I'm 42 and have braces, Invisalign. And we finished up the first 25 trays and then the second set, the 6 supplemental trays, and they want to do more trays. And it's funny sitting there because the entire environment, and actually, if you, good morning, Daniel, good morning, Dennis. Oh, it's election day. Happy election day. If you teach martial arts, I'm going to share something with you that I pulled out from the orthodontist. And I'm constantly looking for how people teach martial arts or teach anything, really, because the way you teach something is the way you teach everything. Good morning, Stacy. Daniel says, note to self, first cup is now an hour earlier than it was, but that changes back, this coming weekend? So you should be good to go. And Jared says, orthodontics seems like a racket. You guys are running here. What, Frank? What did the orthodontist? Oh, no, you're coming through so fast. What did the orthodontist do on the roller coaster? He braced himself. I like it. So one of the things I've noticed about this orthodontist office. But before I get there, because most of who they're serving are children, they kind of came at me with this, well, you know, I mean, if you want to leave them as they are now, and they're better, they're so much better than they were. And I said, look, I don't care if I spend the next 2 years in these things. If my teeth are going to keep getting better and it's not going to cost me more money, let's go as far as we can. And they're like, all right, let's do it. But so here's the part that I think you may all find interesting. And this is kind of my attitude when I'm out into the world. Everything was very simply named. All of their instructions were something you could have understood as an 8-year-old. Okay, go to the blue chair. All of the chairs that people sit in for evaluations, it's in a big room, they're all a different color. All the things around that chair are a different color. When they brought me in the room where they're doing more modeling of my teeth, they're referring to everything. Sit in the tan chair. There was a tan chair and a wooden stool. To an adult, sit in the chair, obviously a chair. To a kid, is a stool a chair? And we actually had a conversation. The I don't know what her title would be. She's not the dentist. The assistant, the person doing all the work. We had a conversation about that. She'd been there for a few years and just talking about how even when, she's opening my mouth and I've got these like crazy hook things that I'm pulling my lips apart with, the way she's describing how to move them is very simple. An adult would say, okay, move that out another inch. Try to bring your hand up by your ear, right? Now, if you've taught martial arts to children for a long time, you're probably used to doing some of this stuff. And knowing that there's another way to describe what we do and potentially a more easily understood way, I think is ideal. A lot of traditional martial arts schools take a lot of pride in instruction that is rooted in another language. Specifically, I notice this with karate. Counting in Japanese, describing the technique or the names of the techniques in Japanese, that's great. There's value there, absolutely. But when you're teaching children, I'll tell you what, 5-year-old doesn't care what the name of the kick is in Japanese. They don't. You tell a 5-year-old, this is Yokogari. They're going to say, I don't know what that is. They're going to imitate you. They may start to associate Yokogari, depending on how terrible your accent is or how clear you're willing to enunciate. And I think it's something that as martial artists, we should be aware of. What is the value of communication? It's expressing an idea. Taking pride in communication that other people don't understand is ridiculous. If you have a bunch of people who don't speak Japanese, it is your responsibility to communicate with them in a way that they understand. Over time, you can train them, teach them what the Japanese is, or the Chinese, or the Korean, or the Tagalog, or whatever it is. But if they're not getting it from your words, you gotta do something else. Well, good morning, Eric. So I did say my coffee was different here, and I'll even show you. Look at the color of that coffee. That is not the coffee that Jeremy normally drinks. So I've started putting cream in my coffee again. I haven't done that in ages, even on my first cup. Why? I'll tell you why. So I think I mentioned when I was on Cape Cod, what is this now? A couple months ago. My digestion just it hit a wall. I got to a point where my body was not processing food properly. And we're not going to go into the specifics of that. So I simplified and simplified and simplified. And where I'm at now, most of what I'm eating is meat. I'd say like 80 to 90% of my calories are coming from meat. And I'm doing some cheese and, some high fat stuff around that. And it's working well. I'm losing body fat, which was not really the goal, but my digestion is much better. I feel much better. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is get some calories, some fat-based calories in the morning. Usually it's a couple strips of cold turkey bacon, some cream in my coffee, and I'm good. Keeps me alert. And we just kind of roll. And I'll come back to that in a second. Daniel says, a major sticking point for my TKD gradings was the having to know the names of the techniques in Korean. Weirdly, we never use them in class, just asked about them during grading. And this is one of my pet peeves. No, this has come up with the question around, somebody asked a question a while ago. I think it was on this show, but I can't be wrong. I can't be sure. Running. We have to run 5 miles for our black belt test. What do you think? Do you run during class? Your grading, your testing should be testing the material that you review in class. If your instructor wants you to know the Korean names for things, but does not use the Korean names in class, there's about a 9 in 10 chance that that instructor is bullshit. At least in that respect. I see this all the time. It happens constantly. It's doing what has been done simply because it has been done. Well, that's how our gradings were. Yeah. Did your instructor teach with a lot of Korean? Were you able to learn the Korean like through immersion? Yeah. Well, why don't you do that? Right. Doesn't mean the quality of the rest of the instruction is bad, but it stings. So the coffee's good. There we go. I had to get my train of thought back. Today's a recording day. Andrew is coming up. We're going to record a number of episodes. We will be doing the next Q&A live on all of these, probably just Facebook. So stick around. Well, not stick around. Be aware. You'll see it. It's not a big deal. We're going to record it. We're going to release it. It's still going to get edited. But if you want to be part of that Q&A show live, this is going to be the first time we're trying that. I have no idea how it's going to go. So looking forward to that. But the reason I bring up fat in the morning, I find, and I'm certainly not alone in this, that when my food in the morning is based around fat, my brain operates better than if I eat protein, a little bit better, certainly better than carbohydrates. I'm not trying to put any carbs in my body first thing in the morning. The turkey bacon that I have has a little bit of sugar in it, which, isn't ideal, but quite often I will fast until after, a morning's set of meetings or whatever, because I'm more alert. The moment I get sugar, carbs in my body, which is why we should stop giving cereal to children before we send them off to school. It's a terrible idea. All right, you guys are chiming in on a bunch of stuff. Jenny says, start the day with healthy fat. Where have I heard that before? Winky face. It's like she's foreshadowing here. And she also says, we make it a requirement to know terms in Korean by red belt level. So in order to reach second go. But we do have discussions about the terms starting from day one. And we give both the English and the Korean trail terms when doing drills. Completely agree. That is how, if you're going to want people to know those terms in other languages, that's how you got to do it. Daniel says, I may have pointed out that exact same thing. My instructor apologized and started using them in class more. So good. And secondly, kudos to you for actually letting an instructor know, hey, you're not perfect. Here's a place that we as students might benefit if you made an adjustment. And I'm guessing the fact that your instructor apologized means you brought it to him, openly, respectfully, and centered around your needs, not their failing. Instructors need feedback, guys. They really do. There are a couple other episodes Andrew and I are recording. I think it's 3 or 4. We're going to do more this coming weekend. We're going to Rhode Island Comic-Con. I'm probably going to talk about that a little bit this week. But there's something I wanted to show you that we're bringing. And part of the reason we're going here, I'll take the hood off. Part of the reason we're going is that the majority of the cast of Cobra Kai will be there. This is blurry. Let's see if we can fix that. A little better. Most of the cast is there. We pitched a panel and me moderating it. Haven't heard back, so guessing that's not happening. Also haven't seen that they are doing a Cobra Kai panel, which is ridiculous because almost everyone's there. But who knows? Maybe we can make it happen impromptu. I'll try. Good morning, Denise. Sorry I'm late. I had to go vote. Wow, you guys have very early voting in the city there. And Daniel says, I've been accused of many things over the years, but never being shy and coming forward. Take it. So we're going to go. We're going to try and talk to some of these people, maybe get some quick footage, and hopefully get them to come on the show. We'd love to have Martin Cove on the show. There are a number of others that we may or may not bring on the show. I'm going to be honest. Everybody is not, just because they're a celebrity, everybody does not belong on the show. If the entirety of someone's martial arts experience and knowledge is 5 minutes of, a bit of choreography for the show, and I don't think that they're going to be able to come in a conversation from a martial arts perspective, then we may not have them on the show. But we also may. Who knows? We got to talk to them, find out. So that's what we're going to do. Now, Andrew and I have had these shirts made up. And if you are someone who really, really digs into the website, you've seen these shirts. I couldn't quite get the printing company. Actually, I could have, but I didn't feel like it because it would have been more work. So we've got these shirts. And if you're listening, you can't see what it says. It says martial artist, ? Talk to me, with the logo. And it says that on the front and the back. And so the whole idea is that Andrew and I are going to walk around Rhode Island Comic-Con with those shirts and talk to as many martial artists as we can, because let's face it, there is a pretty healthy cross-section of martial artists and nerds who are going to go to Comic-Con, because he and I are two of them. And Craig is the one who suggested we go, and he's definitely one of them. And I know we've got at least a couple more in the chat right now. But we'll go, we'll talk about the show, meet people, recruit interviews. It should be a good time. So looking forward to that. And there's also some content that we're going to record while driving, and there's other content that we will record, pardon me, from the hotel. I've mentioned this before. We're going to do an episode on defensive awareness strategies. I don't know, we don't have a good name yet, for staying in a hotel room, because most people just screw it up bad, really bad. Daniel says, I'd be there if it wasn't 3,000 miles away. And Jenny is raising her hand. Yeah, so we got at least 2 in there. At least 25% of the people watching right now are nerds. I've never been embarrassed about being a nerd. I used to tell people, hey, you know what? I turned it into a career. I made really good money as a nerd while you were off, not getting better at any skill set that you had in high school. I was doing IT professionally and making really good money, and then subsidizing my employees, who not all of them were terribly hard workers. That's a whole other story, though. So what's going on today beyond recordings? We got one episode this afternoon. I forget who it is. We're booking into next year. We are booking episodes that will air in 2022. How is it almost 2022? It's November, you guys. This is ridiculous. Why is time moving so fast? I don't like it. It's crazy. Let's pour some more coffee. Now, I think I saw that at least a couple of you drop stuff into the Facebook page. So if I take a look at this, where are we? Oh, we got to refresh that page. I like the group. If you're not part of the group here, I'll copy the link in. If you don't happen to be part of the group, you should be in this group. Dennis says, two of my sons are martial artists and Comic-Con nerds. The apples don't fall far from the tree. Daniel says, another interesting news to share with my morning friends. First Tai Chi class tonight. Nice. Enjoy that. All right. So today I see stuff from Frank and from Matt via Jenny and Stacy. So let's start with Frank. According to Days of the Year, it's Movember. Yeah, there is certainly, this is a quote, there is certainly something truly magnificent about a wonderful mustache and beard. Well, thank you. I wouldn't call mine magnificent. This mysterious something tends to lend an air of distinction and respectability to the face of its owner. So it makes perfect sense that this humble facial feature would be called to a noble cause and used to bring awareness to men's health issues to people around the world in Movember. Let that beard and mustache grow wild all month long to raise awareness for men's health issues. Now, I'm not going to do that, but I've had plenty of friends who do that, and I respect people who do that. I don't like really long facial hair. It gets all scratchy and just, I don't know. This is about as long as I like it, to be honest. Yeah. The shorter it is, the less you can see the white in it. But I think movements like this are good. As men, we are taught, less so today, but as a guy in my 40s, I was taught explicitly and culturally as a kid, men don't cry, men don't share their feelings, men don't struggle, men don't suffer, etc. Now, there is something to be said for not vomiting feelings and especially in the context of, well, we won't go there. But there's a balance. You can't keep it all inside. You got to find a way to let it out, whatever it is. And no matter what the toxicity is, whether it's food or feelings, thoughts, if they're not good for you, you got to find a way to get them out. Sitting and stewing over something that's bothering you, that's not helpful. And I think that's kind of the big lesson. Whether it's therapy or you've got a friend who is a good listener, doesn't matter what the method is, as long as it's a healthy method. Then it says, I trim my beard at least weekly. The longer it gets, the grayer it looks. I can relate. Tommy says, I couldn't grow a beard if I tried. Well, you are not the only one. I've known plenty of people. Jenny says, LOL, I can't either yet. We'll see what happens as I age, right? Well, fingers crossed not, but hey, you know what? If you want to give it a whirl, I find if you take a big step back, forget about the cultural aspects, our attitudes towards hair as human beings are just weird. They really are. This gender has to shave here. This gender has to shave here. If this gender shaves here, it's weird. Like it's ridiculous. Now, after being immersed in it for decades, I admit there's a very strong preference in certain ways. But, what are you going to do? Daniel says, I have a fairly impressive beard, but for some reason it always grows red. If you look carefully, I don't know if the color is good enough, but you can see there's a lot of red in my hair. And when I was younger, there are photos. Actually, if you follow me on Instagram personally, I posted some photos. And if you look closely, you can see when I was young, I had very curly, reddish brown hair. And over the course of the summer when I was young, it would be quite red. Jenny said, if I grow a beard, it would be to prove I can do it better than Matt. Oh, there's some domestic stuff going on in here. All right. Speaking of Jenny and Matt, for Matt, if you were going to be a bender in Avatar, The Last Airbender, what type of bender would you be and why? Well, I'm glad you clarified, because just as a contrarian, I would have said I'm going to be Bender from Futurama. But if I have to be a bender in Avatar, it's been a while since I watched the show. I did enjoy the show, and those of you who haven't seen it, it's an animated series. It's really good. Probably Earth. I've always identified more, especially in the show, with the with the Earthbenders. The Firebenders are jerks, and I don't know if I'd be being an Airbender would be cool, but that feels like stealing the thunder from Aang. Is that his name? And it really just comes down to resonance. I'm more comfortable on the ground than I am in the water. Fire is cool, but I've always gravitated towards the land, trees, the dirt. It's almost perpetual that there's dirt under my fingernails and that the bottom of my feet are dirty from walking around barefoot. A lot less so given the winter. It's cold right now, but throughout the summer, yeah, my feet are perpetually dirty. I have to use a fingernail brush on the bottom of my feet if I'm going out, because feet are dirty. Hobbit feet, people have called them. Jenny says, Bender in Futurama is the best Bender. Stacy is so water. Daniel says, Oh, while I'm here with COP26 in the news at the moment, can I help the Americans in chat with pronunciation of the city it's held in, as the U.S. news always gets it wrong? Glasgow, now Gow. Oh, not Glasgow. Glasgow. Right. And it's not glass, it's Glas. So it's a little bit shorter. And I only know this because I know people from Scotland. Glasgow. Sorry. Glasgow. There we go. I'm overthinking it now. All right. And then we got one more from Stacy, and then we're going to call it a day. What do you think of training internal and external martial arts at the same time? Or how can you bring the internal and into the external? We've covered this a bunch on Martial Arts Radio, and most of what I'm going to say here is based on my memory and kind of collecting what people have said. When we talk about internal versus external martial arts, hard versus soft martial arts, there's an arbitrary line that's drawn. And what I've learned from talking to practitioners is that it tends to be the karate, taekwondo, the heavy, non-internal, hard set, whatever you want to call them, who draw that line. It's as if we, and I put myself in that group, are fearful of Tai Chi and Jingyi and others. I'm not awake yet. There's more in the back of my brain. But when we talk to those practitioners, especially the practitioners who have done, say, Tai Chi and Kung Fu or other styles across that line, they don't draw as strong a distinction. And I understand that, because I think if you are training karate, taekwondo, deeply, I'm not going to say right, but if you're training it at a really deep level, at a fundamental level, if you are investing the whole of yourself into it, there's an internal component, there's an emotional component, there is a mental component, there is a, for lack of a better word, not religious, but a spiritual component. And if you're willing to embrace those aspects, while the conversation around chi, energy, etc., is not, the language is not there in the same way, the stuff is there. For those of you who know Sanshin, which is arguably one of, if not the oldest traditional karate Japanese forms, if you've done Sanshin a bunch, if you know that form and you can do it well, and you've done Tai Chi, you understand what I'm talking about. The road is different. The destination is not that far off. So given all that, Stacy's question, what about training them at the same time? I think my advice is the same as it would be for any cross training. If you're brand new to martial arts, it probably doesn't make sense, because you're going to corrupt your body's ability to learn things that are distinctly different. You don't want to be in the middle of, your yellow belt whatever test, and you're demonstrating a form and you suddenly mess up and you're demonstrating Tai Chi short form. You don't want to do that, right? And vice versa. But if you've been training for a few years, you understand the language of the style that you are training. I see nothing wrong with training another style. And it doesn't matter to me whether it's a style that is really similar or really different. In fact, you're probably going to find more benefit doing something that's completely different from what you're doing. If you're doing Taekwondo and you go train BJJ or Tai Chi or HEMA or Arnis or anything, right? There's value there. So while some people are going to draw some distinctions between hard and soft, internal and external, however you want to phrase it, I don't think it matters in this context. Stacy says, not that I'm planning on that right now. I can't even train in my own art. We should have Sure you can. Sure you can. Just because you're a little busted up doesn't mean you can't. There's always a way to train. Always a way to train. May not be 100%, may not be all encompassing, but there's always a way to train. If you have a mind, you can practice your patterns, your forms. If you have one arm that works, you can practice technique. Okay. All right. So, and Tommy's chiming in. Tommy agrees. Yes, you can. All right. I want to thank everybody for joining. I'm going to go drop a comment in the Facebook group, and hopefully you'll leave me some questions or comments for tomorrow, Wednesday. Again, pay attention to the Facebook group. Let's say somewhere between 10 and noon. I'm sorry, the Facebook page, rather. That's where the announcement will be. And we will go live for an episode of Q&A, Martial Arts Radio. I'm sure Andrew's got questions, but maybe, I don't know what the format's going to be. I kind of leave that show to him, but we'll make it happen. Hope to see some of you, and I hope you have a great day. And I'll see you back here tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Peace.